Hey, my name is Mariah. I'm 28 years old. I'm a proud college dropout, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you the 8 reasons why I dropped out of college. I would say this video is for 2 different types of people. It's for the kid that is considering going to college, but not sure if college is the right thing for them. This video is also for parents who have kids who are about to go to college. And I think that this video is going to make you think a little bit differently about pressuring your kids to go to college. If you have a super entrepreneurial kid, college might not be the right path. It might not be the right decision. So I'm looking forward to just sharing with you my experience today on the 8 reasons why I dropped out of college and how it turned out for me. Spoiler alert, it was the best decision I ever made, and I was able to become a self-made millionaire at the age of 24. To be honest, I got demoted as a millionaire, and then once again at 27, I became a millionaire again. So my path wasn't perfect, and it wasn't just straight up. There was a lot of ups and downs along the way, but at the end of the day, dropping out of college was by far one of the best decisions I ever made. You know what? I don't want to do this video in my office. Let's go for a little joyride on my scooter to some of my favorite spots in Puerto Rico to enjoy a good view, and I'm gonna go ahead and share this story with you. Welcome to my cute little microphone, because trust me, you're not going to want to hear the wind out here. The first reason why I dropped out of college is because I didn't think it was worth the cost anymore. So very early on, my parents made it very clear to me that they were not going to cover the expenses for me to go to college. Of course, they were really encouraging me to go, but they said, we're not going to pay for it. So I knew that from the very beginning. I applied for a lot of scholarships, and luckily, because, my parents they just made normal income, I was able to qualify for Cal Grant, which covered the majority of my tuition, but not all of it. So I applied for a lot of extra scholarships, and I was actually able to cover the cost to go to school, plus all my other expenses, like books and transportation and all the other necessary things needed to make your college experience what it is. I also want to make it clear that I just went to a local CSU nearby to my hometown. The tuition was really not that expensive. I want to say maybe $3,000 a semester. But what ended up happening was I became a professional sweepstaker, which means that I was literally winning cars, trips, cash prizes, all of these amazing things constantly. And I actually made too much to where I wasn't going to qualify for Cal Grant anymore. Because I was going to have to start paying for college all out of my own pocket, I quickly realized this is not worth it. I'd rather take that money that I have and sitting in my bank account, and I'd rather start a business. So that's what I ended up doing. So the second reason why I decided to drop out of college was because I felt like it was slowing me down in life. My basketball coach in middle school would always tell me that, I don't know if it was me, she was yelling at someone on the basketball court to stop towing a trailer, and that's how college made me feel. It felt like it was really holding me back when it came to the sweepstakes. So I was really focused on sweepstakes because, in 2012 I had won like 3 cars, and then I'd win 10,000 here and 10,000 there, and a trip to the Grammys and a trip to New York, and a motorcycle here and a motorcycle there. I was just winning so much, but it was also very time consuming. I would easily spend 16 hours a day doing it. And so college basically I felt like it was slowing me down. I felt like I was winning less because I had to work on campus. I had to go to class. I had to study and do homework and all of these things. And it just felt like it was holding me back. I felt restrained. I felt like I couldn't really accomplish as much of what was right in front of me. I felt like all the opportunity that I had was slipping away from me because I had to keep up with my schoolwork and keep up with attendance and keep up with everything. It really just felt like it was holding me back and, creating this scenario where I felt like there was so much opportunity right in front of me, but I couldn't take advantage of all of it because I was just too occupied with college. So the third reason why I dropped out of college is because I realized, these professors, I don't think any of them have owned a business themselves. Out of all the professors I had, there was only one that actually had a business of her own. And I don't care if you're teaching accounting or marketing or business ethics at the college level, I believe that you should 100% have a ton of business experience, and you should probably currently be in business. Because what happens when you're not in the middle of business, things are always changing, from the legal stuff to like marketing and everything and laws, that like it just seems like, oh my God, I am getting just not a very good business college education. Like, there was one time where I had to basically fill in for a professor. I had to take roll for her because I worked in the College of Business in the dean's office, and they're like, okay, she can't be there this day, Mariah, like, can you go in there and take attendance for her? I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So that day, she had a local McDonald's franchisee come in and teach the class, which he was brilliant, he was smart, he gave just a ton of value. I wasn't even in that class, but I was like, whoa, like, this is good. But it's like, it wasn't even a professor. I think it should be actual entrepreneurs that are teaching these college business classes, because I'm sorry, but I'm not going to waste my time with someone who has never started a business that's trying to teach me entrepreneurship. Like, if that's not a scam, then I'm not sure what is. The fourth reason why I decided to drop out of college was because I was extremely focused on working for Nike up in Oregon. And during my business ethics class, I learned just how unethical not just Nike is, but pretty much every clothing company in the world. I learned about fast fashion, how terrible it is for our environment, and after watching the Behind the Swoosh documentary in my business ethics class, I realized that working for Nike went against everything that I stood for. And that was like my number one goal, because I loved sports, I loved Nike, I loved the brand, I loved everything about it, until I learned about the behind the scenes. I actually cried in my business ethics class the day that I watched the Behind the Swoosh documentary, which you can actually catch on YouTube. It's super interesting and super fascinating. After I watched that documentary, I was just like, there is no way that I could work for Nike, and what am I even doing here? Like, what am I doing in this college class if I don't even want to work for them anymore? And then it just gave me like a bad taste in my mouth about any other company that I potentially wanted to work for. It was like, if I'm not going to work for Nike, then like I have no other company that I want to work for so badly. So that was a pivotal moment for me when it came to my decision-making process of dropping out. After watching that, it was just like, I knew that I couldn't be there anymore. I had to make a different decision for myself. What? You've watched my videos? Oh, excellent. Very cool. What was your name? Gabriel? Good to meet you. Have a good night. Thanks. Just found a subscriber on the beach, so it's fun to meet you guys when I see you out in the wild, so never be afraid to say hi. And the fifth reason why I decided to drop out is because it felt so right. No matter how many times people told me that I was making the wrong decision, no matter how many times people told me how stupid I was, the decision felt so right. The decision actually made me feel so much peace. And so actually that was one of the most critical decisions that I made, that made me realize that I asked myself when I'm trying to make a tough decision, if the decision that I'm leaning towards, does that fill me with peace, or does that fill me with anxiety? And so, oh gosh, the decision felt so right. I had zero fear. I had zero sick feeling in my stomach. I was just like, yes, absolutely. This is right. It feels right. There was nothing that anyone could have said to make me change my mind, because trust me, from family to friends to former high school teachers, people were on my case. They were like not happy with the decision that I was making. I wasn't asking anyone to pay my bills. I wasn't asking anyone to catch me if I fell financially, because I already knew there was no one there to catch me. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter what anyone said, because I was like, you know what? This feels right. So that was like I said, a critical time where, trusting and listening to my intuition was something that I did in that moment, and I did it subconsciously. But I realized just how perfectly it worked out. So I was like, all right, well, I'm doing this all the time now. I'm starting to lose some sunlight here. The sixth reason why I decided to drop out of college is because I had enough saved up. I had enough saved up to support myself for a long time. I had enough saved up to start a business, buy a business. Like with the 100K, I think that added to why I was so confident in my decision to drop out without a lot of fear, without a lot of anxiety. That was a huge component to it as well, because like I'm the kind of person that I've never had, like even like my parents were like, no, if you financially fail, like that's on you. That was a component to it. I felt really confident because with all the cars that I had won and all the big prizes that I had won, I had saved up enough money to $100,000, right? I was 19, 20 years old with $100K in the bank. I had $100K in the bank, so that was part of the feeling confident with the decision to drop out. That did play, I must say, a massive role in the decision-making process. The seventh reason why I dropped out is because I'm like, just because I drop out doesn't mean I can't ever go back. So it wasn't like, okay, it's now or never. I mean, everyone did warn me, once you leave, you're not going to want to go back. And they were definitely right about that. There was a brief period of time, I would say 3 or 4 years later, when I really wanted to be a Chick-fil-A owner-operator. And because I was so young, although I had experience starting my own food service business, even though I was so young, the fastest route for me to become an operator, which is super competitive, would to have been through the leadership development program, which I was going to need a bachelor's degree to be able to even qualify for the leadership development program. So there was a brief period of time where I thought about going back, but then I realized I am so miserable here, and that should have been on this list of 8, but I'm gonna go ahead and add it right now. I was literally so miserable and so depressed when I was in college that it was like, I didn't even want to get out of bed in the morning. It took me so long to figure out what to wear. My body was just so heavy. That was the first time that I would say I ever experienced being depressed was when I was in college. So I knew that because it felt so right to leave, I'm like, okay, this is probably the right decision. And the 8th reason why I dropped out of college was because it was the most obvious scam. It's honestly insane how much these colleges get away with charging people, and it's clearly because the government is willing to back the loan. So we all know that anytime the government gets involved in anything, they absolutely destroy it. So that's why we've seen tuition go out of control, is because the government is willing to back these loans. And so colleges in return are just able to inflate their prices because the government will give people the loans to go to these super expensive colleges. So it was such an obvious scam to me. And I think that in the last, 5 to 10 years, people are really starting to realize just how much of a scam college really is. And I don't think it's really preparing people for the workforce in any way at all. And I don't really put too much weight on how many degrees someone has. For me, it's so much more beyond that. College is not prepared to have a good work ethic in any way at all. So I am super glad that I realized that college was a scam when I did, because I was that person. I'm not gonna lie. I used to look down upon people, and I was a teenager. I used to look down upon people who would drop out of college thinking that, they were just making the wrong decision and that they were just gonna go nowhere in life. But the truth of the matter is that college is not for everyone. And obviously, if you want to be a doctor or nurse or something in the medical field, it's so necessary. It's just part of the game that you have to play to get there. But personally for me, and personally for any entrepreneur, I don't see any value in college, because you can learn everything that you need to start a business just by starting a business. And that's what I did. I knew that there was no better way for me to get a true entrepreneurial education than by just starting a business and figuring it out along the way. So some of the interesting things that I learned when it came to dropping out of college was I learned about my work ethic. I learned that if I was in a situation with my back against the wall, in a situation where I knew that no one was going to catch me financially, I learned how intense my work ethic could be. I realized how many times I could pass or push through resistance, push through difficult situations. I would all the time stay up 24 hours when it came to my business and running it to make sure that things were running properly. I really discovered a completely different work ethic inside of me that I didn't know existed. I learned how capable I was if I was put in the position to prove myself. Looking back now, I was young. I was 19, I was 20. I felt like I had to prove myself. But now, if I was in that situation again, knowing what I know now, I would just be trying to prove to myself something, not prove to anyone else anything. During that entire decision-making process, I literally had zero support. I don't recall one single person that told me what I was doing was the right decision. From friends to family to former teachers, people were constantly encouraging me to make a different decision. People were constantly telling me how stupid I was. People were constantly telling me that if I dropped out now, that I was never gonna go back to college. They were right, but I'm glad. Who wants to go back to a scam? In that process, I learned to not listen to people who are not where you want to be. The people that told me that, they were not entrepreneurs. They were not people that had plans or goals or desires to retire young. They were people that lived a lifestyle that I would never want. So I never took that into consideration, but looking back, I realized that the people that were trying to give me that specific advice were people that didn't really obtain a life that I truly wanted for myself. So I hope you enjoyed this video on the 8 reasons why I dropped out of college. If you'd like the second half of the story of what I did 2 weeks later of starting my food concession business out in California, go ahead and put a comment down below if you want to hear about that journey and that experience and how I started a food truck business all by myself. So that is all that I have for you today. As always, go out there and create a portfolio that you love.